My name is Marisol, and I'm 26 years old. I never thought my own family would turn against me so completely. We were always close, at least I thought we were. But everything changed at my grandmother's birthday when my sister Natalie pointed her finger at me and accused me of stealing her necklace. The shock wasn't just that she would say such a thing, but that my parents immediately took her side. Without questions, without doubt. They chose her truth over mine and kicked me out of the only home I'd ever known. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. If you've ever been falsely accused by someone you trusted, hit that subscribe button. This story might help you feel less alone in what you're going through. I grew up in a seemingly picture-perfect family in suburban Michigan. My parents, Robert and Catherine, were hardworking people who built a comfortable middle-class life for us. Dad worked as an engineering manager at an automotive company, putting in long hours to provide for our family. Mom was an elementary school teacher who somehow balanced her career with maintaining our household. Together, they created a stable home for me and my two younger siblings, Natalie and Alex. Our two-story colonial house on Maple Street was where all my childhood memories were formed. The backyard with its massive oak tree and the swing set Dad built himself. The kitchen where Mom taught us all to bake. The living room where we gathered for movie nights every Friday. It wasn't fancy, but it was home. Warm, familiar, and safe. At least that's what I thought it was. Family was everything to us. We had Sunday dinners without fail, even during the busiest times. Holidays were elaborate affairs with traditions we'd maintained for generations. Mom's Thanksgiving turkey, Dad carving the Christmas roast, 4th of July barbecues where the whole neighborhood was invited. Looking back, I can see how much effort my parents put into creating these perfect family moments. But beneath the surface, our family dynamics were more complicated. Dad always had a soft spot for Natalie, my younger sister, by 4 years. She was the daddy's girl, petite, blonde, and charming in ways that made people want to protect her. When she'd bat those big blue eyes, Dad would melt and give her anything she wanted. A later curfew than I had at her age, the car I wasn't allowed to drive, extra money for clothes when I had to save for my own part-time jobs. Mom, ever the peacekeeper, rarely challenged these disparities. Her approach to family conflict was to smooth things over, rather than address problems directly. "Your father works so hard, let's not upset him," she'd say whenever I pointed out the unfairness. Or, "Natalie's just more sensitive than you are, Marisol. You're so strong and independent." As if my strength justified receiving less support and consideration. As the eldest, I took on the responsible role from an early age. I was the one who helped with dinner, who watched my siblings when our parents worked late, who got straight A's and never caused trouble. I worked part-time throughout high school at the local library, saving for college while maintaining my grades. I graduated valedictorian and earned a partial scholarship to the state university where I studied marketing and business. Natalie, on the other hand, was the pretty one, something I heard relatives comment on at family gatherings more times than I can count. While I inherited Dad's olive complexion and sturdy build, Natalie got Mom's delicate features and natural grace. She was a talented dancer and the center of attention at school. She dated the football captain, was crowned prom queen, and seemed destined for a charmed life. But there were signs of trouble I chose to ignore. The times small items went missing only for Natalie to find them and receive praise. The occasions when she'd break something and blame Alex, our younger brother. The elaborate stories she'd tell about why she missed curfew or failed a test. Stories my parents readily believed while I was always held to a higher standard. Despite these differences, I tried to maintain a good relationship with my sister. I helped her with homework, drove her to dance practices, even covered for her a few times when she snuck out to meet friends. I believe that's what big sisters were supposed to do. I wanted her to succeed, to be happy. I never saw her as competition, though I sometimes wondered if she saw me that way. The tension between us grew more noticeable after I graduated college and secured a job at a marketing firm in the city, just a 30-minute drive from our family home. I stayed living with my parents initially to save money, a decision that put Natalie and me under the same roof again after my years away at college. By this point, Natalie had dropped out of community college after a single semester, claiming it wasn't the right fit. She cycled through retail jobs, never staying anywhere longer than a few months. There was always a reason: a mean manager, catty coworkers, unfair expectations. Mom and Dad never pushed her to stick with anything or to develop a plan for her future. She'll figure it out when she's ready, they'd say. Meanwhile, I was thriving in my career. 3 years in, I received a promotion to marketing manager, overseeing campaigns for several major clients. My parents were proud, of course, but I couldn't help noticing how quickly conversations about my work would shift to concerns about Natalie. It's wonderful you're doing so well, Marisol. But do you think you could talk to your sister about applying for that receptionist position at your office? She's feeling so lost lately. Looking back, I can see the seeds of resentment growing in Natalie. Every achievement of mine seemed to highlight what she perceived as her own failures. Every family dinner became an opportunity for comparison, even when no one intended it. The more I succeeded, the more defensive and withdrawn she became around me. If only I'd recognized what was building beneath the surface. If only I'd understood how far she would go to shift the family spotlight. But I never imagined my own sister would deliberately destroy my relationship with our parents. I never thought she would make a choice that would leave me homeless and familyless in a single afternoon. The day everything fell apart was supposed to be a celebration, our grandmother's 80th birthday. Mom had been planning it for months, a special lunch at our family home with all the extended relatives coming to honor the family matriarch. Grandma Helen was the heart of our family, a strong, wise woman who had raised 5 children largely on her own after Grandpa died young. She'd always been my biggest supporter, the one who encouraged my independence and ambition, when others in the family seemed intimidated by it. I took extra care getting ready that morning, wearing a navy blue dress Grandma had helped me pick out for my college graduation. I even wore the small pearl earrings she had given me on my 21st birthday. I wanted everything to be perfect for her special day. By noon, our house was buzzing with activity. Aunts and uncles from both sides of the family, cousins I hadn't seen in months. The dining room table extended to its full length and covered with Mom's best tablecloth. The good china that only came out for special occasions. The smell of Mom's famous pot roast filling the house. Grandma arrived last, escorted by my dad, who had picked her up from her assisted living facility. Everyone gathered in the living room to greet her, exclaiming over how beautiful she looked in her new powder blue suit. She was still sharp as a tack, remembering details about everyone's lives and asking pointed questions about jobs and relationships. When she got to me, she held my hands a little longer than the others. "You look radiant, my Marisol," she said, her voice lower so only I could hear. "Success suits you." After lunch came the gifts. We all watched as Grandma opened present after present: photo albums, handmade quilts, gift certificates for her favorite restaurants. But the final gift was special: a small velvet box that Grandma opened with particular care. Inside was a vintage sapphire pendant on a delicate silver chain, a family heirloom that had belonged to her mother. It was genuinely beautiful, the deep blue stone catching the light as she lifted it from the box. "This is for you, Natalie," Grandma announced, and I felt a brief pang of surprise. As the eldest granddaughter, I had always assumed the family jewelry would come to me eventually. But I quickly pushed the thought aside. Grandma could give her possessions to whomever she chose, and the necklace did match Natalie's eyes perfectly. Besides, I wasn't entitled to anything simply because of birth order. Natalie's reaction was everything you'd expect: tears, hugs, effusive gratitude. She put the necklace on immediately, and everyone commented on how lovely it looked against her fair skin. I joined in the praise, genuinely happy for my sister, despite our complicated relationship. The necklace truly did seem meant for her. The celebration continued with cake and coffee. I was helping Mom serve when I heard Natalie's voice rise in panic from the living room. "It's gone. My necklace is gone." I hurried in with the others to find Natalie frantically searching through her purse, tears streaming down her face. "I just took it off to put on the lotion Aunt Judy gave me, and I put it right here in my purse for safekeeping." "Are you sure that's where you put it?" Dad asked, already on his knees looking under the coffee table. "Yes, I'm positive," Natalie insisted, dumping the contents of her purse onto the couch cushion. What followed was a house-wide search: couch cushions removed, carpet examined, every person checking their immediate vicinity. The birthday celebration completely derailed as everyone focused on finding Grandma's precious gift. I joined the search too, checking under tables and behind furniture. The atmosphere grew increasingly tense as minutes passed without the necklace appearing. And then it happened. "Wait!" Natalie said suddenly, her voice cutting through the concerned murmurs. She was staring directly at me, her expression transforming from distress to something harder. Marisol was the only one who went upstairs during the party. She said she was getting Grandma's present from her room. Every head turned toward me. I felt a flush creeping up my neck at suddenly being the center of attention. I did go upstairs to get Grandma's gift, but that was before you even received the necklace, I said calmly, confusion evident in my voice. Natalie's eyes narrowed. You went up again right after I got the necklace. I saw you. I shook my head. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. Her voice rose. And you were always jealous that Grandma gave me the necklace instead of you. I saw your face when she announced it was for me. The accusation hung in the air like a physical thing. I looked around at my family members' faces, expecting to see the same disbelief I was feeling. Instead, I saw uncertainty, suspicion, my father's expression hardening. Marisol must have taken it, Natalie declared, pointing directly at me. She's always been jealous of what I have. I didn't take anything, I said, my voice remarkably steady considering the hammering of my heart. Why would I steal from my own sister? Dad stepped toward me, his face grim. Empty your pockets, Marisol. The words hit me like a physical blow. My own father asking me to prove my innocence, not asking Natalie for proof of her accusation, not giving me the benefit of the doubt, just immediate suspicion. You can't be serious, I said, looking to my mother for support. But she was looking at the floor, unwilling to meet my eyes. If you didn't take it, you should have no problem emptying your pockets, Dad insisted, his voice taking on the authoritative tone he used when we were children and in trouble. I'm not going to be searched like a criminal in my own home, I replied, anger now replacing my shock. I didn't take the necklace. Your refusal only makes you look guilty, Dad said, his expression darkening further. Around us, relatives shifted uncomfortably. Aunt Judy murmured something about checking the bathroom again. Uncle Paul suddenly became very interested in his coffee cup. No one was willing to intervene, except Alex. My 19-year-old brother stepped forward. Dad, come on, Marisol wouldn't do this. Let's just keep looking. It probably fell somewhere. Stay out of this, Alex, Dad snapped. Your sister has been acting entitled ever since she got that promotion, looking down on the rest of us. The unfairness of this statement left me momentarily speechless. I had never looked down on my family. I had worked hard and succeeded. Why was that being twisted into something ugly? Either empty your pockets and bag right now, or get out of this house. Dad said, his ultimatum clear and cold. I looked at my mother silently, pleading for her to say something, anything. But she remained silent, her conflict avoidance winning out over defending her daughter. I looked at Natalie, who met my gaze with a strange mixture of triumph and what almost looked like fear. And in that moment, I knew with absolute certainty that my sister was lying. Whether the necklace was truly missing or safely hidden away, she was deliberately trying to frame me. With as much dignity as I could muster, I picked up my purse from the side table. I didn't take the necklace, I said one final time, my voice steady despite the tears threatening to spill. But I won't stay where I'm not trusted. And with that, I walked out the front door of my family home, not knowing it would be months before I crossed that threshold again. I drove aimlessly for nearly an hour, tears blurring my vision so badly that I eventually had to pull over in a shopping center parking lot. I sat there with the engine running, trying to process what had just happened. My sister had accused me of theft. My father had believed her without question. My mother had said nothing in my defense. In the span of 15 minutes, I had become homeless and familyless. The reality of my situation slowly sank in. I couldn't go home. Not tonight, maybe not ever if my father maintained his position. I had an emergency credit card but limited cash. I had a job but no place to live. I had a car full of gas but nowhere to go. I ended up at a Holiday Inn about 20 minutes from my house. The woman at the front desk gave me a sympathetic look as I checked in with red-rimmed eyes and no luggage. Just one night, she asked, and I nodded, not knowing what else to say. One night was all I could process at that moment. The hotel room was clean but soulless. Beige walls, generic artwork, the faint smell of industrial cleaner. I sat on the edge of the bed, still in my navy dress from the party, and tried to make sense of everything. Why had Natalie done this? Had the necklace actually gone missing? Or was this entire thing fabricated? And most painfully, why had my parents been so quick to believe the worst of me? My phone buzzed repeatedly with text messages throughout the evening. From Dad, "Return the necklace and we can forget this happened." From Mom, "Your father is very upset. Please don't make this worse." From various relatives expressing their disappointment in my behavior. Only 2 messages offered any comfort. One from Alex, "I know you didn't do it. Dad's wrong. Call me if you need anything." And one from my grandmother, "This isn't right. Come stay with me if you need to." But Grandma lived in an assisted living facility with strict rules about overnight guests. Her offer, while touching, wasn't practical. Sleep evaded me that first night. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying the scene over and over. The looks on everyone's faces, the coldness in my father's voice, the strange, almost frightened expression on Natalie's face when she accused me. By morning, I was exhausted, but no closer to understanding why my family had turned on me so completely. I called in sick to work for the first time in my 3 years with the company. I couldn't face people, couldn't pretend everything was normal when my entire world had been upended. Then I reached out to my best friend Taylor. "They did what?" Taylor exclaimed after I explained the situation. Without hesitation, she added, "Come stay with me. I've got that spare bedroom since my roommate moved out. Stay as long as you need." That afternoon, I drove to my parents' house, timing my visit for when I knew they'd both be at work. I had my key, but it felt wrong to use it after being told to leave. Instead, I texted Alex, who came out to help me pack some essentials: clothes, toiletries, my laptop, important documents. He worked quickly, nervously glancing at the driveway, as if expecting our parents to return at any moment. "Natalie's sticking to her story," he told me as he helped carry my suitcases to the car. "But something feels off about the whole thing. I don't think she's telling the truth. Why would she do this?" I asked the question that had been haunting me since yesterday. Alex shrugged, looking uncomfortable. "I don't know, but I'm going to try to find out." I hugged him tightly before I left, grateful for his support, but worried about him being caught in the middle of this family fracture. The next few days passed in a blur. I returned to work where my manager Jennifer noticed something was wrong despite my attempts to hide it. When I finally broke down and explained the situation, her response surprised me. "Take whatever time you need," she said firmly. "Work from home if it helps. Your mental health comes first." Her compassion, in stark contrast to my family's treatment, brought fresh tears to my eyes. Days turned into a week with no contact from my parents, beyond a cold email from my father. "When you're ready to return what you took, we're ready to talk. No questions asked." I replied once again, affirming my innocence, but received no response. My mother sent a single text: "Your father is just upset, give it time." As if time would somehow make me guilty of something I hadn't done. As if his unfounded accusation was something I should simply weather until it passed. The realization was both painful and clarifying. My place in my family had always been conditional. My role as the responsible, achievable eldest child had never earned me the unconditional trust and support I had always given them. In their eyes, I was capable of betrayal, of theft, of hurting my own sister out of jealousy. And that knowledge changed everything. The physical and emotional toll was significant. I developed insomnia, sometimes going days with only a few hours of restless sleep. I lost my appetite, food becoming tasteless and unappealing. Anxiety attacks would hit without warning, leaving me gasping for breath in bathroom stalls at work or waking in a cold sweat at Taylor's apartment. "You need to talk to someone professional," Taylor insisted after finding me sobbing in the kitchen at 3 a.m. "This isn't just sadness, Marisol, this is trauma." She was right, of course. My family's betrayal wasn't just a temporary hurt. It was a fundamental reshaping of my understanding of my place in the world. And I needed help navigating it. The weeks that followed were an exercise in rebuilding from scratch. I moved from Taylor's couch to her spare bedroom, setting up a more permanent arrangement. I found a therapist, Dr. Larson, who specialized in family trauma, and began weekly sessions. "What you're experiencing is a form of abandonment, Doctor," Larson explained during one of our early sessions. "And it's complicated by the fact that you were not only abandoned, but falsely accused. Your sense of safety and trust has been doubly violated." She helped me recognize patterns in my family that I had normalized over the years. My father's preference for Natalie, my mother's conflict avoidance, my role as the family achiever who was paradoxically resented for her achievements. None of these dynamics had started with the necklace incident. They had merely crystallized in that moment of crisis. Work became my sanctuary, a place where my competence was valued and my word was trusted. I threw myself into new projects, staying late at the office and volunteering for additional responsibilities. If my colleagues noticed my increased dedication, they attributed it to ambition rather than avoidance of an empty apartment and absent family. I established new routines in an attempt to create stability. Morning runs in the park near Taylor's apartment, Sunday brunches with friends instead of family dinners, evening calls with Alex, who had become my lifeline to the family I still loved despite everything. Through Alex, I learned bits and pieces about what was happening at home. Natalie was still claiming the necklace was missing, supposedly searching everywhere for it. My father remained convinced of my guilt, particularly after my suspicious quick departure from the family home. My mother was caught in the middle, unwilling to directly challenge my father, but increasingly uncomfortable with the situation. My grandmother reached out several times, torn between her loyalty to the family and her belief in my innocence. "I know you, Marisol," she said during one phone call. "You've never been dishonest a day in your life. Something isn't right about all this." Her support meant the world to me, but even she couldn't fully stand against the family narrative. "Just talk to your father," she urged. "Clear the air." As if the air could be cleared, when the fundamental issue was that my father had chosen to believe the worst of me without evidence. The first major holiday away from my family was Thanksgiving, traditionally a big event in our house with extended family and friends gathering around my mother's perfectly set table. Instead, I joined Taylor and several of our college friends for a Friendsgiving in a small apartment across town. We ate turkey from a catering service, played board games, and drank too much wine. It was fun, but the absence of family traditions left an ache that no amount of new memories could quite fill. I attempted to reach out to my father on his birthday in early December. I called rather than texted, hoping to hear his voice after nearly 2 months of silence. The call went straight to voicemail. I left a simple message: "Happy birthday, Dad. I miss you. I love you," and hung up before my voice could break. He never called back. Alex and I met secretly for coffee whenever he could get away without raising suspicions at home. He was attending the local community college and working part-time at a bookstore, which gave him legitimate excuses to be out of the house. During these clandestine meetings, he shared more about the family dynamics in my absence. "They've basically forbidden anyone from mentioning your name," he told me, stirring his coffee absently. "Dad changes the channel if you come up in a commercial for your company. Mom cried when she accidentally set the table with an extra place at dinner last week." "And Natalie?" I asked, always hesitant to hear about the sister who had caused all this pain. Alex frowned. "She's weird. Sometimes she seems almost guilty, especially when Grandma's around. Other times she acts like you're dead. She's taken over your old room, moved all her stuff in there because it's bigger than hers." That detail hurt more than it should have. The systematic erasure of my existence from the family home. The physical claiming of my space. It felt so final, so deliberate. Yet despite the pain, I was finding unexpected strength in surviving without my family's support. I had always defined myself partly through their expectations and approval. Now I was learning who Marisol was on her own terms. What I valued, what I wanted, what I would and would not accept from the people in my life. After 3 months of living with Taylor, I made the decision to find my own place. It wasn't that Taylor wanted me gone. She had made it clear I could stay as long as I needed. But I needed to establish roots of my own, to create a space that was fully mine. With my marketing manager salary, I could afford a small one-bedroom apartment not far from my office. Moving in was a bittersweet milestone. My first real apartment with no furniture, except what friends had donated, and what I could afford to buy new. No family heirlooms. No childhood mementos beyond what I'd managed to grab during that hurried packing session with Alex. It was a fresh start in the most literal sense. Blank walls, empty shelves, unlimited possibilities. "You're going to be okay," Taylor said as she helped me hang curtains in my new living room. "Actually, you're going to be more than okay. You're going to thrive." I wanted desperately to believe her. And on good days I did. On bad days, I still woke up reaching for a sense of belonging that had been shattered the moment my sister pointed her finger, and my family chose to believe her. 3 months and 2 weeks after the birthday party incident, Alex texted me asking if he could come to my new apartment. His message was cryptic: "Need to talk to you about something important, in person, not over text." My heart raced as I waited for him to arrive. Had something happened to my parents? To Grandma? Was the family finally ready to reconcile? I paced my small living room, checking the window every few minutes for Alex's beaten-up Honda Civic. When he finally arrived, Alex looked different somehow. More serious, more adult than his 19 years would suggest. He declined my offer of a drink and sat heavily on my new IKEA couch. "I've got news," he said without preamble. "About Natalie. About the necklace." My stomach clenched. "What about it?" "Natalie got caught in a lie last week. Something small. She told Mom she was staying at a friend's house, but the friend called looking for her. It got Dad questioning her about other things." I sat down across from him, hardly daring to hope. "And I've been doing some digging on my own," Alex continued. "Ever since the birthday, something felt off about the whole situation. Natalie's been acting weird, secretive, defensive, and she suddenly had money to buy new clothes even though she quit her job at the mall." "What are you saying, Alex?" I asked, though I was beginning to see where this was heading. "I think Natalie pawned Grandma's necklace," he said flatly. "I think she needed money for something, took the necklace, and then blamed you when people noticed it was missing." The confirmation of what I'd suspected all along should have been validating. Instead, it just deepened the hurt. My own sister had deliberately framed me knowing exactly what would happen. She had calculated that our parents would believe her over me, and she had been right. But why? I asked the question that had haunted me for months. Why would she do that to me? Alex shrugged uncomfortably. "I have a theory. I found credit card statements in her trash. She's got massive debt, Marisol, like tens of thousands of dollars. And the minimum payments are more than she makes at those part-time jobs she keeps quitting." The puzzle pieces started falling into place. Natalie's new clothes, her frequent gifts to herself, the packages that arrived at the house almost daily. My sister had a shopping addiction, and she'd apparently reached a desperate point. "So what now?" I asked, torn between vindication and a deeper sense of betrayal. "I want to prove it," Alex said firmly. "I want evidence that can't be explained away. I want to check local pawn shops, see if we can find the necklace or records of it being pawned." "Okay," I agreed reluctantly. "But I'm setting boundaries here, Alex. Finding the truth doesn't automatically mean reconciliation. What they did, what they all did, can't be undone with an 'I'm sorry.'" Alex nodded, understanding the weight of what he was asking. "I know. But truth has to be the starting point, right?" The next Saturday, Alex and I visited pawn shops across the city, showing a photo of the necklace and asking if anyone had seen it. The first two shops yielded nothing. At the third, an older man behind a glass counter studied the photo carefully. "Yeah, I remember this piece," he said, adjusting his glasses. "Distinctive setting on that sapphire. Came in about 3 months ago." My heart pounded. "Do you remember who brought it in?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. The man frowned. "Young lady, blonde, pretty, said it was her grandmother's, but she needed cash for rent." Alex and I exchanged glances. It had to be Natalie. "Do you have records?" Alex asked. "Security footage." "We keep records of all transactions," the man confirmed, "and our cameras store footage for 6 months, but I'd need a police report or court order to release those." We thanked him and left, sitting in my car in the parking lot to process what we'd learned. "We need to get her to confess," Alex said finally. "It's the only way Mom and Dad will believe it." The next day, armed with the information from the pawn shop, Alex confronted Natalie privately. I wasn't there, but he called me immediately after. "She broke down completely," he reported, his voice shaking slightly. "She admitted everything. She pawned the necklace 2 days after the birthday party. She needed the money for credit card payments. She's got 5 maxed out cards, Marisol. She's been hiding them from Mom and Dad for years." "And blaming me," I prompted. "Why did she do that?" Alex was quiet for a moment. "She says she panicked. She didn't think Grandma would notice the necklace was gone so quickly. She was planning to get it back before anyone realized, but then Grandma asked about it at Sunday dinner. She says She says she never meant for it to go this far. She thought Mom and Dad would just be mad for a while and then let it go. She didn't think Dad would kick you out. I laughed bitterly. Well, she was wrong about that. She wants to tell them the truth, Alex continued, but she's terrified. She wanted me to see if you'd be there when she does it. My first instinct was to refuse. Why should I make this easier for Natalie? Why should I be there to cushion the blow of her confession? But then I thought about what I really wanted. Not revenge, but recognition of the truth. Not punishment for my sister, but accountability from my family. Set it up, I told Alex, but make it clear. I'm coming for the truth, not for a quick forgiveness session. The family meeting was scheduled for the following weekend. Alex had convinced our parents that there was important family business to discuss without revealing the specifics. He'd also invited Grandma, feeling her presence would keep everyone honest and on their best behavior. Driving to my childhood home after 4 months away was surreal. The house looked exactly the same. The blue shutters my father repainted every other year. The flower beds my mother tended so carefully, the basketball hoop over the garage where Alex and I had played countless games of horse. Yet it felt like a place from another life, a life where I had been secure in my family's love and trust. My hands shook slightly as I parked in the driveway. Alex met me at the front door, his face a mixture of relief and anxiety. "They don't know you're coming," he whispered as he let me in. "I thought it would be better that way. No time for Dad to work up an argument." The living room fell silent as I entered. My mother gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. My father's face darkened, his body tensing as if preparing for conflict. Natalie, seated on the couch with her hands tightly clasped, looked up with red-rimmed eyes. Only Grandma seemed genuinely pleased to see me rising from her chair with arms outstretched. "Marisol," she said, warmly embracing me, "it's about time you came home." "I'm not home, Grandma," I said quietly. "I'm here for the truth." My father stood. "If you've come to return the necklace, we can move forward. Otherwise, I don't see the point of this." "Sit down, Robert," Grandma said sharply. "And listen for once in your life." Alex cleared his throat. "I asked everyone here because there's something we need to clear up. About the necklace. About what really happened." He proceeded to explain our investigation. The pawn shop visits, the owner's identification, the evidence we had gathered. With each detail, my father's expression shifted from anger to confusion. My mother began to cry silently. Natalie stared at the floor, her shoulders hunched in defeat. When Alex finished, he turned to our sister. "Natalie has something to say." All eyes turned to her. For a moment, I thought she might deny everything again, might double down on her accusation against me. But then she lifted her tear-streaked face and spoke. "I took the necklace," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I pawned it 2 days after Grandma's birthday. I needed the money for debt payments, credit card debt." She took a shuddering breath. "When Grandma asked about it, I panicked. I didn't know what to do. So I said Marisol took it." "You deliberately accused your sister?" My father asked, his voice hollow with disbelief. "You let me throw her out of the house for something you did." Natalie nodded miserably. "I didn't think you'd react so strongly. I thought you'd just be mad for a while. I was going to say I found it later once I had the money to get it back. But then everything spiraled out of control and I didn't know how to take it back without admitting what I'd done." The room fell silent as the full implications sank in. My father's face had lost all color. My mother was sobbing openly now. Grandma reached for my hand, squeezing it tightly. After what felt like an eternity, my father turned to me. "Marisol, He stopped, seeming to search for words. "I made a terrible mistake. I should have trusted you. I should have asked questions, looked for evidence. Instead, I jumped to conclusions. I failed you as a father." It was the apology I had waited months to hear. But now that it was finally being offered, I found it insufficient. And "I'm sorry" couldn't erase the nights I'd spent crying myself to sleep in a strange bed. It couldn't undo the betrayal I'd felt when my family chose Natalie's lie over my truth. It couldn't restore the trust that had been so fundamentally broken. "An apology doesn't erase months of rejection," I said quietly but firmly. "You didn't just make a mistake, Dad. You revealed something about our family that I can't unsee. When it came down to a choice between believing the worst of me or questioning Natalie, you chose to believe the worst. Mom stood by and let it happen. That's not just a misunderstanding. That's a broken foundation. My mother looked up, tears streaming down her face. We've been terrible parents to you, Marisol. I knew something wasn't right about the whole situation. I felt it in my gut. But I didn't speak up. I didn't want to cause more conflict. I was a coward. And I was selfish. Natalie added, her voice small. I've been jealous of you for years, Marisol. You're so together, so successful. Everything comes easy to you. Nothing came easy, I corrected her. I worked for everything I have. The difference is I did the work instead of taking shortcuts or blaming others when things got hard. My words were harsh, but they needed to be said. For too long, our family had avoided difficult truths in favor of comfortable fictions. That avoidance had created the perfect environment for what happened. A family where lies could flourish because no one was willing to confront them. As the painful conversation continued, a key turned in the front door. Grandma had texted her from the bathroom, and she'd come immediately. I heard raised voices, she said, taking in the scene before her. Her eyes landed on me, widening in surprise. Marisol, you're home. Not home, I repeated. Just here for the truth. Natalie has confessed to taking and pawning the necklace. Grandma's expression hardened as she turned to my sister. Is this true, Natalie? Natalie nodded, unable to meet our grandmother's eyes. Then you owe your sister more than an apology, Grandma said firmly. You owe her restitution. For the necklace, yes, but more importantly, for the damage you've done to her place in this family. My father cleared his throat. We all do. And the first step is acknowledging that we have serious issues to work through, as individuals and as a family. He suggested family counseling, a proposal that would have been unthinkable for my proud father just months ago. It was a sign of how severely this incident had shaken his view of our family dynamic. As the conversation continued, I maintained my emotional distance. Yes, the truth had come out. Yes, my name had been cleared. But the damage had been done, and I wasn't ready to pretend otherwise for the sake of family harmony. I need time, I told them before I left. And I need to see real change, not just words. I love you all, but I don't trust you right now. And I won't come back to a family where trust is conditional. I left the house that day feeling lighter than I had in months. Not because everything was fixed. It wasn't, not by a long shot. But because for the first time since that fateful birthday party, I was walking away on my own terms with the truth finally acknowledged and my dignity intact. The journey toward healing proved to be just as difficult as the original wound. 6 months after Natalie's confession, our family was still working through the aftermath. The truth had come out, but truth alone couldn't repair what had been broken. It was merely the foundation upon which repair could begin. We started with professional help. I agreed to attend family therapy sessions twice a month, though I maintained my separate living arrangement and my emotional boundaries. Our therapist, Dr. Carter, specialized in family estrangement and reconciliation. She didn't sugarcoat the work ahead of us. Trust once broken doesn't magically restore itself, she explained in our first session. It has to be rebuilt brick by brick through consistent actions over time. Natalie had her own healing journey to undertake. She began treatment for her shopping addiction, attending support groups, and working with a financial counselor to address her massive debt. She got a full-time job as an administrative assistant and stuck with it even when it was challenging. She also began therapy to address the underlying insecurities and jealousy that had fueled her destructive behavior. I didn't realize how much I defined myself in opposition to you, she admitted during one particularly difficult therapy session. If you were the responsible one, I had to be the fun one. If you were the achiever, I had to be the pretty one. I put myself in this box and then resented you for it, even though you never asked me to be that way. My parents had their own work to do. My father attended individual therapy to address his authoritarian tendencies and his pattern of favoritism. My mother worked on finding her voice and standing up for what she believed was right, even when it created conflict. Together, they examined how their marriage and parenting patterns had contributed to the family dysfunction. As for me, I maintained my independence while cautiously allowing my family back into my life. I kept my apartment my separate social circle, my new identity as Marisol on her own. But I also began attending occasional Sunday dinners, accepting phone calls from my parents, and meeting Natalie for coffee to slowly rebuild our sisterly relationship. The process was neither linear nor easy. There were setbacks. My father falling back into old patterns of dismissing my perspective, my mother avoiding difficult conversations, Natalie becoming defensive when her past actions were referenced. There were painful conversations where old wounds were reopened before they could properly heal. There were times when I questioned whether reconciliation was even possible, whether some betrayals were simply too fundamental to overcome. Grandma played a crucial role in the healing process. At 80, she had seen enough of life to understand both the importance of forgiveness and the necessity of accountability. She mediated conflicts, offered perspective, and most importantly, never pretended that what had happened was anything less than a serious breach of family trust. One significant milestone came when Natalie saved enough money to replace Grandma's necklace. It wasn't the same, of course. The original had been an heirloom with history and meaning that couldn't be duplicated. But the replacement was her way of acknowledging the material damage she had caused on top of the emotional harm. When she presented it to Grandma, our grandmother did something unexpected. After thanking Natalie for the gesture, she removed the necklace from its box and handed it to me. "This belongs to Marisol now," she declared, looking directly at my parents as if daring them to object. "As the eldest granddaughter, and more importantly, as the person who has shown the most integrity in this family." It was a symbolic gesture, but a powerful one. A public acknowledgement of the wrong that had been done to me and a restoration of my place in the family hierarchy. My parents nodded in acceptance, and Natalie, to her credit, voiced her agreement. "It's the right thing," she said softly. Our first tentative family dinner felt awkward and strained. We sat around the familiar dining table, the empty space where I used to sit now filled again. Conversation was halting, everyone carefully avoiding potentially triggering topics. I left early, emotionally exhausted by the effort of maintaining boundaries while attempting connection. But gradually, these family gatherings became easier. Not because we forgot what had happened, but because we were actively addressing it. We developed new patterns of interaction, new ways of resolving conflict, new respect for each other's separate identities and experiences. I developed a particularly close relationship with Alex, who had been my ally from the beginning. Our shared experience of navigating the family crisis had created a bond that went beyond ordinary sibling affection. He was preparing for transfer to a 4-year college, and I found genuine joy in helping him with applications and campus visits. His growth throughout the ordeal, from a teenager trying to stay out of family drama to a young man willing to pursue uncomfortable truths, was remarkable to witness. My relationship with Natalie would never be the same, but in some ways it became more authentic than it had ever been. Without the pretense of perfect sisterhood, we could acknowledge our differences and the complex feelings we had toward each other. Jealousy, competition, admiration, resentment. These emotions had always existed between us, but now they were named and addressed rather than buried beneath surface pleasantries. "I don't expect you to fully trust me again," Natalie said during one of our coffee meetings, "but I want you to know I'm working every day to be worthy of whatever trust you can give me." The most profound changes, perhaps, were within myself. The experience of being falsely accused, rejected by my family, and forced to rebuild my life had transformed me in ways I was still discovering. I had developed stronger boundaries, greater self-reliance, and a clearer sense of my own worth independent of others' validation. I learned that forgiveness is not the same as forgetting, and that it doesn't require vulnerability to the same hurt again. I could forgive my family while still protecting myself from similar pain in the future. I could love them while being honest about their flaws and the damage they had caused. Most importantly, I discovered that family, true family, is defined by mutual respect, trust, and support, not merely by blood ties or shared history. The family I was slowly rebuilding with my parents and siblings was fundamentally different from the one I had lost. It was more honest, more equitable, and ultimately more genuine. The wounds haven't completely healed even now. There are still moments when a casual comment or a familiar family pattern triggers the memory of that terrible day when my sister pointed her finger and my parents believed her without question. There are still times when I hold back from full vulnerability, protecting the parts of myself that were most deeply hurt by their betrayal. But there is healing, real healing happening day by day. Not a return to what was before. That's impossible and perhaps undesirable. But the creation of something new. A family that acknowledges its imperfections. A family that makes space for difficult truths. A family that chooses to rebuild rather than pretend. And as for me, I'm still Marisol, still standing in my truth, still building a life that belongs fully to me. But now, I do it with the knowledge that even the deepest betrayals can sometimes lead to unexpected growth. That being falsely accused didn't define me, but my response to it helped reveal who I truly am. Have you ever experienced a betrayal by someone you trusted completely? How did you handle it? And were you able to rebuild that relationship? Share your story in the comments below. If this video resonated with you, please hit the like button, subscribe to hear more stories like mine, and share with someone who might be struggling with family betrayal. Sometimes knowing we're not alone in these painful experiences can be the first step toward healing. Thank you for listening. And remember that your truth matters even when others refuse to see it.